morning and welcome to Living Local 15. I'm your host, Jessica Williams. Thank you so much for tuning in today. It's time to grab a cup of joe and enjoy the show. We are kicking off the show with the Broadway Ticket Giveaway. Yes, we're coming up on our very last Broadway show of the season, and it's going to be a good one. Tina, the Tina Turner musical, is showing on May 27th and May 28th, so stay tuned for those details of how to win tickets. Then, if you like theater, we are going to keep the party going and have the stars of the upcoming musical Freaky Friday join me in studio. That play is presented by the Civic Theatre and is happening this weekend. And later, it's Mental Health Matters with Viking Psychiatry, and we are discussing how low testosterone in men can actually impact their mental health. Are you ready? Let's get started.
Fashion, food, and fun. You're watching Living Local 15 with your host, Jessica Williams.
Get ready to feel the power, the passion, and the music of a true rock and roll legend, Tina. The Tina Turner musical is taking place at the Embassy Theatre just at the end of this month. It's going to be here for 2 unforgettable nights on May 27th and May 28th. Now, this electrifying Broadway production tells the inspiring story of Tina Turner's rise from humble beginnings to global superstardom. It's packed with all the hits from Proud Mary, What's Love Got to Do with It, and the best. This show doesn't just celebrate her music, it honors her strength, resilience, and the legacy she left behind as the queen of rock and roll. And I have a sneak peek just for you.
All I wanted was my name, Tina Turner. That is mine.
Now who wants to sing with that?
If you're ready to sing, dance, and be inspired, don't miss Tina, the Tina Turner musical at the Embassy Theatre on May 27th and 28th. And guess what? I'm giving away 2 tickets to 1 lucky viewer. So head over to the Living Local 15 Facebook and Instagram page to enter. And don't forget to enter on both pages for a double entry. But tickets are going fast, so it's best to grab your tickets now at the Star box office or at fwembassytheater.org. And I'll see you rolling at the show.
Living Local 15, proudly driven by the Kelly Automotive Group.
The Civic Theatre's production of Freaky Friday, the musical, is hitting the stage this month, May 17th through 18th at the Embassy Theatre. So get ready for a body-swapping musical adventure full of laughs and heart. And joining me today are their 2 talented lead actors bringing this hilarious and heartfelt story to life, Tegan Dostal and Brittany Osborne. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so excited to talk to you because I absolutely love this movie, right? Mm-hmm. And the fact that it's going to be in live production is just so exciting to Fort Wayne. So kind of start off by sharing a little bit of background about yourself and you as an actor. I'll start with you, Tegan.
I have been doing community theater since I was really little. My first show was when I was in about 3rd grade, and it's my favorite thing to do. Even when I take a break, I'm like, okay, that's long enough after like a week, and I get back into it. Mm-hmm. It's like my favorite thing, and I'm really excited for this one.
Yes, so much so. What about you, Brittany?
I grew up doing Wells Community Theater as a young person, and then did some stage productions at Huntington University, and this is my first civic production. So super excited to be joining such a high-level community theater experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And in this play, you play mother-daughter.
Yes.
And of course, I mean, who hasn't heard of Freaky Friday?
Right.
But you swap bodies. So give me kind of the premise of the production, Tegan.
Yeah, so we meet a mother and a daughter, and the daughter's kind of telling the story of how she's really excited for this activity that's going around at her school called The Hunt, and she really wants to go, but her mom is planning a wedding, and she's like, you can't go, we have the rehearsal dinner tonight. And they fight, and no one really understands each other, and then they switch bodies using this magic hourglass. And so for the rest of the show, they have to pretend to be each other while trying to figure out how to switch bodies.
Yeah.
And it's really fun.
And Brittany, why do you think this story just relates to everyone who's watching, whether you're, I mean, everyone's a daughter, right? So just that experience and the history really of this movie.
Yeah, so as you have said, you know, this is a classic Disney show. There were 2 films that were created, and actually during my audition, I studied Jamie Lee Curtis's rendition of the mom becoming the daughter because she was just outstanding in it. And so, you know, to your point, the story is timeless because as women, we've all been daughters, and many women go on to be mothers. And so just the relatability of the themes is fantastic, and the show is also hilarious. So the show like really humorizes the idea of a mom and daughter swapping bodies for a day and like trying to be in each other's shoes. And at the end of the day, like just building so much empathy for the other's experience of life.
Yeah, that's great. And so I want to know what the actual experience was taking on this role. I mean, you are a young lady, teenager, and you have to play an adult. So how was that? How did you tap into your fellow woman?
Well, you know, since I obviously have never had the experience of being a mother, this was definitely a challenge. I tried to pull from different mothers that I know, but I also tried to study Lindsay Lohan's portrayal of the character. Since it's a Disney show, it is, since it's a comedy, it can be a little stereotypical, so I tried to kind of play into the comedy of that and have fun with it. Yeah.
Okay, and then Brittany, what was it like tapping into your younger self?
Yeah, it was actually like challenging, but also like super healing in a sense because like so Ellie, the daughter's character, she's kind of a rebel. Yeah. And when I was in high school, I mean, I was so straight-laced. I was a rule follower. And so I do draw on like a high schooler experience, but the fact that like I needed to change like my personality and be like rolling my eyes all the time, and Ellie is just a super angry person, and you find out in the course of the show why she's so angry. So you know, even going back to my high school self was challenging because the personality of Ellie was so different from my high school self.
Right, yeah. And probably fun too, who get to play a little rebel.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes, and so it's perfect timing too with the newest movie coming out. How exciting is that? And so I want to talk about the experience of working with the Civic Theater. Okay, I know that they put on so many productions a year, and you all put a lot of work, time, dedication into preparing for your role. So give me an idea of when you started to rehearse for this and what that practice has been like.
Well, this is my 6th Civic show, but this is the biggest role that I have played in a Civic show so far. It is kind of challenging because I am in high school, and so I have school from 7:15 to 2:30 every day, and then I have a couple hours of a break, and then I go to rehearsal at 7 or 6:30 every night till 10.
Wow.
So in between, I try to split the time between chilling and giving time to myself, but also like practicing and getting work done for school. So I started preparing the second I prepared for the audition and the materials they wanted us to sing and look at for the audition. But then the second that I got offered the role, I started looking at the script and really trying to nail down on the music, especially since there's so much of it.
Right.
And just practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, yeah. And so, Brittany, is this your largest production as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, for sure.
And y'all are singing, which, like she said, is a lot to balance. So what has this practice schedule been like for you, and just really being able to work with the Civic Theater on your first show?
Yeah, the rehearsal schedule has been great because, being a co-lead with Tegan, I just kind of booked out my work schedule to be like, okay, I know for the next 6 weeks, 7 to 10, I am going to be practicing.
Yeah.
And so just kind of understanding, the work-life balance and understanding with my jobs and with life at home, being like, okay, this is a very specific time commitment, but I also know from past productions and even being both a performer and a director myself, how demanding it is.
Yeah.
This has been a very tight-packed rehearsal schedule, and we actually didn't rehearse the show in order.
Oh.
So for a memorizing perspective, I have to go back to the script and even look at my lines in order, because that has proven, I think, a memorization challenge for me. Just the scenes that we rehearsed, it was like shuffling the deck of cards. So it's been awesome. I've loved working with the Civic. It's an outstanding company, and it's been great.
Okay, I love that little behind the scenes of, just what it takes to put on and to perform in such a production as this. So congratulations to you both. I will be there on May 17th to watch, and I'm so excited. I'll be rooting you on from the audience, and such a huge, big stage. Performing at the Embassy Theater is major.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
And if you would like more information about Freaky Friday, a production put on by the Civic Theater, we'll have their website listed below so you can get your tickets. It's taking place on May 17th and 18th, and I'll see you at the show. This segment sponsored by Viking Psychiatry. It's time for another edition of Mental Health Matters with Viking Psychiatry, and I'm so excited to be joined by their owner, Sean Goddard. Hi, Sean.
Hey.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so this topic is so important, so young men, listen up. We're going to be talking about low testosterone and how that can impact the mental health of young men.
Absolutely.
But Sean, let's just start at the basics. In case someone is unaware, what exactly is testosterone when it comes to men, and how does it impact their mental health?
Yeah, so testosterone is we could call it our main sex hormone, right? It's responsible for a lot of processes in our body, as far as most people are, think about it when it comes to sex drive and sex development, characteristics and that type of stuff. But it's heavily involved in metabolism, our brain function, and plays a significant role in also mood when it comes to our body. It's just like estrogen in women, right? And believe it or not, women also have testosterone levels, and that plays an important role with women as well. But today we're going to focus, of course, on testosterone, and especially that in young men. So
yeah, okay, so reports out show that low testosterone is happening more frequently when it comes to young men.
Yes.
And so first off, what are the stats, and why do you think this is happening?
There's a lot of differentiation there. Whether it has to do with sedentary lifestyle is one big question, because we spend a lot more time indoors, we spend a lot more time sitting down, not moving, and we do know that exercise and movement is very important in that. We also look at environmental factors, potential long-term exposure to our parents, our grandparents, and genetic factors that have passed down from that, whether there's any correlation between hormones that have been used in foods and, for example, in animals and those types of things. But it's really something that hasn't gotten enough focus yet as to how prevalent it is becoming in younger men.
Yeah, and you had mentioned that when you are working with these men, they're looking for a solution to what their issues may be, and you would run the test and learn that they are low in testosterone, and you say that the levels are close to older men, which is wild. Yeah,
absolutely. When we see low testosterone, a young man could potentially have no change in his sex drive whatsoever, but also have low motivation, low energy, problems with cognition, memory. It doesn't always present. People think that it just has to do in correlation with the plumbing, is what I often say, but it doesn't always present that way. I have had men that come into my office, young men that come into my office that have the sex drive of a young man, but can barely have the energy to get off the couch and participate in life, and have gone and seen their, potentially their primary care doctor or other psychiatric providers, and told that they, they're treatment-resistant depression, or, really not necessarily always putting the finger on the pulse of what's going on. And then we run these levels on these men, and we get levels back that either are significantly low in the 100s, low 200s, or maybe they're coming in at like 350, which is kind of borderline when you run the labs, depending on the lab. 350 to 1,000 to 1,100 is considered normal, and they'll tell them, oh, your normal is just low normal, and expect that to be acceptable. But young men in their early 20s, their testosterone level should be 850, 900, 950, 1,000, 1,100. So if you're walking around with a testosterone level of 250, that's going to have a significant impact in you in some way. And what we often see being missed is when it's affecting them, and that kind of presents with those mental health type presentations as just being assigned as some type of mental health concern, as depression, and then not responding to medication, right? Because the problem isn't necessarily the depression, right? It's that low testosterone that is driving the symptoms that appear to be depressive symptoms.
That's deep. That's really deep. And I love that the more that we're learning about medicine and science and just how the body works, so much is being revealed, because hormones play such a big part in the way that we function, what our body's made up of and what we may be lacking. And I think that you hit on something so important with our numbers. When we're getting back reports and blood tests and all this kind of stuff, is we have to be advocates for ourselves and also find other alternative solutions, not just solely focus on medicine, not just solely focus on doctors, but a more holistic approach. Because as you said, your focus is the whole body, right? Healing the whole body. So I love this approach. So what are some of the signs that mental health is impacted? I know that you mentioned signs of depression and things like that. But what are some of the major signs, and how can people really start to heal from this?
Yeah, so, besides the trouble concentrating, right, the low energy, low motivation, you can have reduced muscle mass, reduced drive. There's an inability to bounce back. You can have difficulty in sleep. There's a lot that can present with low testosterone. The other problem that we deal with in young men is, even if we do catch it, and many times it's not caught, and then we do catch it in our office, is if you look at treating that low testosterone, for example, with supplementation, you impede the production of their ability to produce, or their fertility. And so when you're artificially treating with testosterone, that can impede that and take away their ability to be able to have children. So it can be this very fine balance on what do we do? Do we treat? How do we treat it? And is it through the use of testosterone, or is it looking at other potential factors, such as increasing exercise, right? Looking at different vitamins that are in play there. If their testosterone level is high, but maybe they're beginning to gain weight, and they see that they gain it in their chest. We look for our mood instability. That can be a sign that we actually end up having high estrogen levels, right? And so then looking at that, running estrogen levels and treating that naturally to begin to reduce those estrogen levels, allowing you some more stability and ability to also increase those testosterone levels. So you really have to look at the total picture of the individual and what's going on. And many times it's a combination of both, right? We can have men who are struggling with depression, but also have low testosterone, and that depression often won't get to where it needs to be an improvement because that low testosterone is not being addressed.
Right. And what are lifestyle changes that a young man can make to help with his low testosterone and also improve his mental health?
Yeah, so we look at dietary intake, right? Reducing sugars and fats and increasing proteins, also increasing, just getting our daily supplementation.
Yeah.
Are we eating the right amount of vegetables? There are vegetables that can help with production, right? We especially look at like green leafy vegetables and those types of things, but also taking a multivitamin, making sure that we're getting adequate omega-3s in our diet. And if we're not getting that naturally, how many of us are eating salmon and fish multiple times a week, right? It's just not happening, right? So weightlifting and those types of things can be very beneficial, but just getting off the couch and moving. But sometimes that can be very hard for people to do that because their testosterone is low. And so we often do find that just treating with just exercise or just food changes, especially at the beginning, can sometimes be difficult because we need that little extra boost to be able to help us have the energy and the motivation that's being dragged down by the low testosterone. So we can look at natural supplements as well as testosterone supplementation for those individuals. But sometimes it can be hard because some providers don't want to treat it because they are young men and the fertility issue. So it's really finding a good balance.
Yeah, it's a fine line for sure. Thank you so much, Sean.
Absolutely.
Very informative to learn that it may not just be laziness or just lack of ambition. It could be other things that's happening in your body. So it's so important to get it tested and to learn. And the best place to go is Viking Psychiatry. So we will put their website below to learn more. And I look forward to seeing you after the break. This segment sponsored by Viking Psychiatry. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, you can always catch up on episodes and segments of Living Local 15 by going to WANE.com, downloading the WANE app, and also checking us out on YouTube. And I'll leave you with this. It's never too late to live your best life, so start living it today. And I look forward to seeing you here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Content segments during today's Living Local 15 were paid for by these sponsors.